our meeting this evening. This is our fourth meeting, I believe. Yeah, the fourth meeting and the last meeting of 2011. So that's exciting. I do appreciate you coming out, especially with the weather. It's cold, and I think everybody probably just wants to be inside at home. So thank you for taking the time. Well, we're here, and we've got an agenda, so I'll just get going. We've got guests here today that are going to share with us, but to start it off, we've changed our name. So we decided that we would have a mission statement that was, just have one period that was clear, and then change our name to match that statement. So we've changed our name to Homegrown Missouri. We're kind of viewing this as a statewide thing, or even just starting with the Taney County thing, wherever it goes. We're still part of the WellFed Neighbor Alliance and the Feed Missouri First Coalition. So we're all still connected, but that's our name. This is going to be our logo as of right now. We may tweak things as time goes on, but this is what we got. So, Homegrown Missouri, making healthy food and heritage skills available by creating a nurturing, caring, learning environment for our community, building a local community powered by local jobs producing local foods. So that's our mission statement. I think that's what we're all about at the core here. And that's what we intend to execute and implement in Taney County and hopefully all of Missouri over the next year and hopefully years to come, and do that successfully. So that's our name change, and that's what we're going into 2012 with. So we have a mission statement. We've gone over that. We are going to change our meeting dates to the second Tuesday of each month. I hope that is good for everyone. The next meeting will be the yes.
If anybody wants to attend our meetings,
yes,
it's the same night.
Really? Okay.
It's quite fun.
Yeah. Well. Okay. Well.
Our main co-op meeting for the Ozark Neighbors Exchange is the second Tuesday.
The second Tuesday. Okay. Well, that may create some issues.
The 4-H meets on the second Tuesday also.
Well, maybe we should have researched that one a little bit. I don't know what I came up with. I was like, oh, the second Tuesday, that'll work. So I even got the date right this time. Well, okay. We may come back to that. We will look into that over the next month and may call around to everyone here that's here tonight and say, maybe do kind of a poll thing, figure out what's the best deal. We'll just say that as of right now, we'll roll with the second Tuesday. Let's plan on having the January meeting on the 10th, and we'll go from there. So, as of right now, the January meeting will be on the 10th, that second Tuesday, and then we'll take it from there to find a schedule that better fits. So, just so we have.
But it's going to be 2012, right?
Yeah, yes, and I've got it. It's last year, so if you have a time machine, you can go back in time and come. So, see, I'm great at this. So I'm very good with agendas. So, anyway, so it'll be on the 10th of 2012. So that's what we're looking at. Like I said, we'll figure out the schedule between now and then of next year, not last year. So beyond that, tonight we have some special guests. We have the WellFed Neighbors of Ozark County / Theodosia, and they've come out and drove out tonight, and they have I think a very successful group and have done a whole lot of really cool things. And how long have you guys been a group?
We started meeting last April.
Last April. Okay, of this year? Okay. All right, I'm good. I'm getting good with the years. Anyways, they've done some really awesome things. So we've invited them to come out tonight to tell us about what they've done. On the agenda, I do have the events on the horizon. I think I'll just go ahead and go over those now real quick on what we're looking at doing, and then have our guests speak, just because probably they're going to be really interesting, and I can, we'll fill up the time slot talking to them. So, looking at 2012, our group, what we have on the schedule now, and we need input from everyone, but what we've implemented as of right now, what we're going to do, this is the least. We're going to do a C of O garden tour sometime in mid-April. It might be on the 13th, aka April 13th.
He changed it to the 21st.
To the 21st? Okay. So I put mid-April because we're not 100% sure, but it'll be sometime around, mid, maybe even late April. We will have that nailed down by the next meeting. We will also have, we plan to have a workshop with Denise and Jerry Shackett on how to make cheese. We think that's a really cool thing to know how to do.
What's that?
The cheese workshop, we're not, it's going to be in April as well, or in March, sorry.
And it's going to be at Community Presbyterian Church in Forsyth. We just don't have a date set yet.
Okay. Yes, Denise Carr is our,
make sure you call us.
Denise Carr is our workshop coordinator. She's very excellent. So we're going to, Denise, did you have a date for that, or just a?
March is what you said.
Just March.
Okay.
We're not sure of the actual date yet.
As of right now, we're looking to doing that in March. Like I said, we'll have that stapled down too. It's kind of hard this far out to get the dates exactly right. We have to talk about that a little bit, obviously, and we'll be in contact with everyone here. Also, we're planning on doing giving away saplings or seedlings, pardon me. Nut tree seedlings in celebration of Arbor Day. And that'll be in April. And those are kind of the three core things that we have right now. Also, the fourth one, which I, with my awesome agenda, did not list, is we're going to have the Garden Squad, which is kind of a ragtag group of our kind of people, and we're going to go around and plant gardens for people. We're going to start with planting one in Joanna's backyard. We've been talking with Linda, who owns the Fall Creek Bakery. We may be planting one at her property, and so those are two gardens that we are planting right now. But that's going to expand and probably get kind of viral, to be honest. So there's going to be a lot of gardens. But as a starting point, we're looking at doing those two, maybe another third one, and just go from there. I'm going to need people to help me do that. And I know I've got some of my good friends here that'll be helping, but that I think will develop in time. But starting January, we're going to have to seriously start, and that's kind of what we're looking at. In January, we'll be tacking things down, putting them in stone, or trying to put them in stone. What we're planning to do with that. So those are kind of the four things that we're looking at doing going into 2012 and getting the show going. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our guests to tell us about their group tonight. So I'm going to sit down and shut up and listen and welcome the WellFed neighbors of Theodosia and Ozark County.
Probably the biggest thing we've done so far is figure out every and any way that a group can get slowed down. There's a lot of stumbling blocks when you bring together the very people with varied goals, varied personalities, put them all in the same room and decide what happens first. We have what would appear to be more people than you do, so that right off the bat means more issues. Most people think that a smaller group is a slow start, but a smaller group can set down your fundamentals quicker. Don't let your lack of numbers hurt you. What we've had to do to finally start getting productive is actually splinter off into groups. We have our survival group meetings. We're starting up our local food and craft meetings. We still have our core meetings. And by doing interest groups, that some of us, Uda's at every meeting. I try to be. A lot of us wind up going to a lot more meetings, but then the less interested people that have one thing on their mind go to the one meeting that interests them, and they're not distracting to try to pull interest over to their topic at the main meetings or the other meetings. So I guess the biggest thing I'd like to do is invite anyone that would like to come to my house on Friday night. That is our first local food and craft meeting. We are setting up we have several crafters in our group to get our stuff pulled together, and in several consignment shops across the area. We have Uda that goes to Springfield quite often. Suzanne lives in Midway, Arkansas. She goes to, I always get them confused, Mountain Home quite a bit. We have members up in Ava. We have a member starting a store in Forsyth where she'd be willing to give us shelf space, plus our local consignment shops, and kind of spread out. And I'd love for any crafters in your group to network with us. We could swap and sharing each other's consignment spaces give greater variety. A lot of consignment stores, if you talk to them, you can rent a shelf instead of doing a percentage. Well, if you have enough people and put in just one or two of everything, that shelf becomes very cheap if it's monitored. And Uda is a beautiful human being. I'm so proud to call one of my dearest friends. She has helped several people learn how to butcher this year. The farm I work for also has a hunting lodge. And I learned by opening morning that most of our hunters only wanted the loins and maybe the hams. And they were actually prepared to throw away the rest of the deer. I butchered the first two, I think it was, and Uda took over from there. And she brought out Jewel, brought out Trish, and helped them learn how to butcher. We're actually preparing to butcher a bull in my front yard, kind of the same deal. I love the skills in our group, but one thing that she's bringing to the table for food and craft is she has a quilting room. She wants to set up a quilting bee where we go ahead and throw a quilt together and sell it, but instead of dividing the money among the group, we're going to keep it in our community for community emergencies. It's a beautiful idea that could be emulated everywhere, and go ahead and make your own FEMA fund, if you will. Just take the federal out of it and turn it into meal emergency management. So I'll let Uda take over from there, and I'm honored to be here. It's great to meet everybody. I've heard so much talking to them.
about your wheat.
Well, the wheat is essentially gone now. Galen's taking care of it. I am reserving a bag for you. The farm I work at is 2,300 acres. We're working into more food crops. We'll have 300-acre wheat harvest next year. With Galen's blessing and a little assistance, we had a phenomenal wheat sale last year, which convinced the farmer I work for that it can be more profitable and easy to go ahead and put the grain in a 50-pound sack and sell locally and feed our local people, as opposed to ship it off as a commodity where it just hits the food chain, becomes poisoned, and comes back to us as that was once wheat. So we're starting new things one day at a time.
Now, how do you grow your wheat? Do you have pesticides?
No, our wheat on our farm is chemical-free, non-GMO. The only downside to it is it has not been cleaned professionally. It comes straight out of the combine. So further wintering for flour is needed. But I also feed it to my goats. Several people feed it to their chickens, whatnot, as is straight out of the bag. But wintering's not hard. It's a matter of set up a fan and scoop it out of the bag and pour it in front of the fan 2, maybe 3 times. All the chaff goes away, the wheat blends in the next bucket.
And we're interested in your goats and clearing your property. This lady particularly.
I gotta give Galen a shot real quick.
Just that, I brought 4 bags of that wheat. They're $15 a bag, which includes what the farmer gets and my share of the gas money, so I could get here and back tonight. Bring it down to you. Great Christmas present. I'll talk to you afterwards where to get the 5-gallon buckets and how to store it, but it's great for sprouting. For homemade bread, it's high protein hard red wheat. It's the kind they used to grow right here in the bottoms of this very county.
Uda, could we share your email address here online more than I am to forward our group, our Yahoo group? Anyone who's online that has more questions, go ahead and get on our Yahoo group. I'm able to check my email often, but I don't have email at home, so I'm not able to reply very consistently. We have a Yahoo group. That'd be a great place to post your events, and we are finally getting back online posting our events, and a way to communicate back and forth. If someone has questions about wheat, about goats, about this, we can look into what each group has going on and go ahead and network a little easier instead of, oh, it's meeting night in Branson and we should all bail in 2 cars and
John should have the website, the Yahoo group address.
The website is, because of the hyphen in there, it's kind of hard to find. It's easier if someone emails you and says, hey, I'm interested in the group, and you just email them the link. Yvonne and I figured that out.
They can give me the email addresses and I'll send it to them.
Okay, that works. Just write down email addresses for Uda, and she'll put you on touch with
About your
you.
goats.
What's left of them? I'm working on breeding goats for a dairy farm. I'm very knowledgeable in goat management, but I had 3 neighbors' dogs come through my herd and I lost 18 out of 28. So I have a greatly reduced herd. But, you know, those are hard knocks when people don't take care of their livestock. They can come after yours. I have one due to kid just about any day, and my other 4 girls close behind her. And I'll expand and bounce back. But what I'm wanting to do is actually get 100 goats milking and have a small cheese factory on site. I used to be a cheesemaker for Morning Land on Milk Dairy. Kind of always been a passion of mine to learn how to make cheese, and I was blessed to be able to work there for a year and a half and be a cheesemaker, and I want to do it again and expand a little broader as a private cooperative-owned dairy as opposed to an FDA-inspected dairy where they say you cannot make raw milk mozzarella according to the FDA rules. Well, why not? I guarantee the first mozzarella made was made out of raw milk. And if all the customers actually own a share in the dairy and they're not buying the cheese, here's my lease payment on my goat this month and my share of feed, and oh, well, thank you, and here is some of your cheese. You can get by with a little bit more. So, but I'm going to go ahead and let Luda speak for a little bit.
Luckily, in the ice storm, because I moved down here 3.5 years ago, Jack's late wife had passed away, and my late fiance had passed away, and we hooked up on the internet. And there was this ad on the internet saying somebody was growing herbs in the Ozarks, and he seemed kind of cocky. So I thought, well, you're going to be a smart ass, and so am I. So I emailed him and I said, what kind do you grow? The legal ones or the illegal ones? And he never stopped talking to me, and I wound up down here. Little did he know.
Here, poor Jack has not got the word in edgewise.
Little did he know I was going to change his life. The poor man had a rude awakening, still has on a daily basis. I came down here with 2 20-foot-6 U-Hauls. And he said, oh my God, where are we going to put it? So he got me a 45-foot over-the-road trailer that we just put shelves in. We went and got grocery store shelves and mounted them onto the wall. And Galen's been going around yard sales, and I've been digging through all the stuff I had. And we're making up containers and label them. Sleeping bags, blankets, utensils. And my biggest thing was, the first thing I unpacked that I had to have in the house was my box labeled non-electric. And Jack started laughing. He's about to roll himself on the floor, and he says, what do you need that thing for? Everything in there is old. And I said, I need it. Why? I said, well, I lived in Louisiana, and I know the tornado can hit, or something else is going to happen, and you don't have no electric. And he said, well, what do you need this for? I said, honey, this is an egg beater. You know, this is a can opener that works by hand. You know, I showed him all the little gadgets. I said, here's all my oil lamps. Oh, he said, electric's never out any longer than 3 days. Well, ice storm hit. We had no electric for almost 3.5 weeks. The day before the Super Bowl, electric came back on. We had plans for a Super Bowl party. So everybody was thinking, oh wow, where are we going to have this Super Bowl party if the electric don't come on? But he pulled a slick one on me. We have one of those outside wood furnaces. Greatest thing you ever want to have. Nice, clean, and you throw a couple of pieces in, it goes all night. You don't have to stand there every hour and fill the thing like most people think you do. But it has a drawback. If you don't have no electric, it won't circulate. Your heat exchangers won't work. So I asked him, I said, honey, if the weather's going to get bad, what are we going to do? Oh, he said, see that thing over there? He said, that's a wood stove, the indoor wood stove. I got it all covered. So I believe in checking things out before I use them. So I told him, I said, honey, why don't you go ahead and run it and see if everything's okay. Oh, he said, last time I used it, it was perfect. I said, well, when was that? 10 years ago. So it pays to check your things that you have. Make sure that they're up to date. Day before the ice storm, I come home from work. All the windows is open. It's colder than the witch's pit in hell. He's got all the windows open, all the doors open, smoke all over the house. Oh. I said, what did you do now? And he said, oh, it'll be okay in a half an hour. He said, Jerry's on the way. He called me from the hardware store, and he said, they're closing down early. Did I need anything? And I said, bring me some stovepipe. Here he had holes all over his stovepipe. He lit the stove, and the house was full of smoke. Well, actually, I keep telling people we had the best time when we had the ice storm because we didn't go anywhere. We had a hot tub, 750 gallons of water, outside full of water. And he makes John Ellis water, by the way, if anybody's interested, he can tell you about that. And we had all these 5-gallon jugs full of water, 4 of them, thanks to me, because he said, oh honey, it's only going to be 3 days, I'll just run the water in the bathtub. And by then I had learned not to argue with him, just let him say something, I do my own thing. I thought, well, you know, if the bathtub don't hold water while you take a hot soak, how's it going to hold water all night and you have drinking water in the morning? So I went out and I filled the 5-gallon jugs. Anyhow, he filled the bathtub, we get up in the morning, not a drop of water in it. And we have a 2-burner propane cooker. So we brought that in, and we cooked our meals on the propane cooker. We stuck a big pot of hot water out of the hot tub on the wood stove. We had water to bathe. We had everything for the animals that we needed. And we took everything out of the freezer and set it outside and put blankets on it. But we had it really bad. We had to go ahead and eat all the seafood, crab legs and everything that we had in the freezer, and drink the red wine and go to bed and snuggle to stay warm. Sounds terrible. So I asked him, I said, honey, I said, if this is going to happen for, you know, on a yearly basis, I said, what are you going to plan on doing? Oh, he said, it's fine. And, you know, he said, we made it to that. And I said, yeah. I said, because I had my non-electric box. I had all my little things, had all these candles, all these oil lamps, and we used them. And it was fun. You know, it's not, they used them 100 years ago and nobody got bent out of shape. You know, if there was no TV, so what? Go to bed and entertain yourself. Which we did. But he's come to the understanding now that he doesn't laugh anymore when I say, honey, we need this, you know, or we should do this, or, you know. Or I unpack something, he says, is that another one of your gadgets? But when I go to a yard sale, he cracks up, and he's now learned what it is that I buy, so he looks for them himself. We have come to learn from the ice storm, which was very lucky for us, what is really wrong with our house. We are planning on running a drill where we're going to do a whole week without electric, which is going to shut everything off. And he's going to run the freezers with his generator. We turned the generator into propane. We converted it. We have a big propane tank, so for at least couple of months we can run our freezers. My biggest thing is to learn to cook small meals because I can't cook for 2. I've done professional cooking. I've been in food service for 35 years. I can cook for 2,000, but I can't cook for 2.
No, but I'm evidence when she cooks for 5.
So my biggest thing is trying to come up with smaller meals so that I don't have to rely on having to have a refrigerator. And I've changed my cooking some. I'm thinking now as far as when I cook, how am I going to store it until I reuse it again? Because it's just so easy. We're so spoiled. You know, we open the fridge and we throw everything in and that's it. I have changed my storing as well. I can most anything. I'm the canning queen. I mean, and he'll tell you I can can 12 quarts while I'm fixing dinner.
I've seen the jars of leftover coffee.
When I can, I used to can everything in quarts because I had 4 kids. You know, a pint ain't gonna go nowhere with 4 kids, so I opened 3 or 4 quarts and it'll be okay. But then I got thinking about, if I don't have a place to store the food after I cook it, I only want to cook enough to eat for 1 meal. So a pint of this and a pint of that will make a meal. So I started canning in smaller pints. Well, I've been teaching the canning class at the church. I'm supposed to teach one at the house. And I'm talking to Galen, and all of a sudden it hit me. If I go ahead and give you 2 pints and set them right there, and a quart. And I give you a choice and I tell you, what would you rather have, the 2 pints or the quart? Most everybody goes straight ahead and takes the 2 pints. It's the same amount, but in their mind, they think they're getting 2 for 1. And I told Jack, I said, you know, I said, I don't care what everybody says, but I'm canning not just for us to eat, but for trading material. And when I have 2 of something to trade, people are more happy with the trade. They get the same thing as them what they get out of a court. So if I'm thinking long term and there is nothing there, I'm also counting as trading material. I have a sewing shop in Theodosia, which I grossly neglected in the last 2.5 months, but I canned 115 pounds of fish over one weekend. The weekend before that I canned 40 chickens. After that I canned 6 deer. I'm getting ready to can 8 geese.
You forgot the 2 pigs.
Well, the pigs was earlier in the spring. So I had to make a decision. Was I going to go ahead and jump on it when I can get things at a reasonable price, or was I more worried about the shop? So I thought, there's a phone number on the shop. If they want something done, they can call. So I stayed home and I canned. Jack is very great when it comes to fixing things for me. He's much slower than I want him to, but I got to give him credit. When he does it, he really does it right. He laughed about me when I said, honey, I said, I want you to go learn how to fix sewing machines. Oh, why? And I said, there's nobody in the area that fixes sewing machines. I said, and we have in the shop, it's $45 for somebody just to look at it, just to set your attention. I said, if you learn that, I don't have to worry about who's going to take care of my machines. You know, I know the basics, but sometimes I just don't have time to fool with all of them. And so far, I believe I have about 18 machines. Don't have no room for all of them in the shop, so some of them is in the mobile home up the hill. After looking at the situation, after talking to Galen, after getting my messages from my spirit guides, my feedback, I decided I'm trying to set myself up to go strictly non-electric on my sewing machines. I will probably be the only one in Ozark County that's going to be set up that way. He had a treadle machine at his house. I sold mine when I moved from Louisiana to Pennsylvania. So we started out with the one he had. He's repairing that. I ran across one at an auction for a good deal. I got that. He bought me another one in Springfield for $45. The people couldn't figure out how to make it work. And I said, don't worry about it. All I need is the base. And when you have an older machine, and I'm not talking about the real old black ones, but the older machines, the beige ones, and they have a motor on the back. And it has a belt that goes to the motor. As long as they have the exposed belt, you can turn that machine into a treadle machine. Now, if you redo old quilts, which I have done, you definitely want to stick with the treadle machine because the stitches is different. And if you recreate an antique or a patch of antique, you want to have the same stitch length. None of the electric machines is going to come up with the same stitch length. So when you convert the machine, you may lose some in the stitch length, but you gain it because you gain another effect because automatically most of those machines are zigzag. So you can do both. You can sew straight stitch and zigzag, while the old ones are only straight stitch. I can do most any job between a straight stitch and a zigzag. So right now I have, I believe, 4 bases and one that he's going to work on putting it back together. Sometimes you can find them cheap because people make tables out of them and you can get them for $20. We had a citywide yard sale and we're driving to get home and there's an exercise bike sitting by the dumpster. And I said, stop! No, we don't need it! He's eating too. No, we don't need it. And I got out and I asked the guy, I said, are you throwing it away? And he said, yep. I said, I want it. No, we don't need it. I said, honey, I want it. Okay, we'll do it your way. So we loaded up the exercise bike. It's now in the bedroom. I've used it a couple of times. But I decided that it'd be a good source to create energy if I need to. I can hook something up to it where he can sharpen my scissors on the exercise bike. When I was a kid, this guy used to come around with his bicycle all the time. And he put his kickstand up, flipped the front wheel on the bicycle up, and he sat there and sharpened knives and sharpened scissors. Well, if he could do that with the regular bike, I can do it with my exercise bike. So I'm prepared preparing for the situation where there is nothing available. People say, oh yeah, well-fed neighbors is only if there's no food, but I don't live in fear. I'm fully aware of the fact that I'm a divine being and God's going to take care of me. Fear is just giving in to other people's things. But I would be stupid if I don't prepare. You know, I'm not going overboard. I'm not spending everything I have in order to prepare. I shop as wisely as I can. But if things come my way like the deer, that didn't cost me anything other than my electric and my time to put into it. You know, when your angels send you things like that and you turn it down and you starve later on, you regret it.
Well, you owe me a hug.
Yeah. But, you know, I don't see it like some people say, well, there is not going to be any food available. I don't think there's anything available. In my mind, from what I have seen, what my angels told me, there's nothing available. I can't tell you how long that is, but I've seen it for at least 6 months. And people are going to panic. When you look at what happened with Katrina, people panic by not having water. What are they going to do if there's no food? You know, and a lady told me the other day, she said, I don't understand why you all talk about, you know, canning food and saving food and doing this. And I said, honey, if you lose your job tomorrow, have you ever tried to get food stamps? I said, it takes you 2 weeks before you get food stamps. Oh, she said, they have emergency food stamps. I said, yeah, try to get them. I said, I mean, unless you black, Mexican, or something else, you won't get them. If the truckers strike, we have 72 hours worth of food on the shelves. You know, they can be striking for 2 weeks. What are we going to do? So we gather groups together in our group where we teach each other what we need to know. We have one lady that's going to teach how to bake bread. I've been teaching sewing classes. I've been teaching canning classes. Patrick is teaching survival class.
Yvonne ceramics.
Yeah, Yvonne is going to teach ceramics. We don't know where we're going to go with our crafts thing. I mean, we have great plans and we probably blow it out of proportion because when we get together, we just don't want to quit. So if we're going to have a quilt and bee, we're going to be there all day and those quilts be done before we know what hit us. But Galen has been coming out to our house very frequently. Matter of fact, he's got a new nickname. He's my weekend husband and he gets the honeydew list. So ladies, if your husband doesn't perform the honeydew list, Galen is available. He's been really great. He's been helping Jack get the loose ends tied up on the farm. Although Jack doesn't look it, but he's 73 years old. And we have 3 season extenders where we grow food in over the winter. Jack came up with a really fancy product and I'll let him talk to you about that. It's called salad by the inch. So there is quite a bit to do. We have chickens, we have rabbits, we have 2 dogs and a cat. And we could stay at home and be busy. It's just that I'm a very energetic person. Now that he started the John Ellis water, Galen said it gives him energy. I think I can't drink that stuff anymore because I have enough energy to go 6 days.
What is John Ellis for?
I'll let Jack explain it to you in a little bit. The thing is,
John and Jules were going to tell us about their house project.
yeah, the thing is we have a really good group where we help each other. That is something I really want to stress. Although we separated into this group, we separated into that group, we call a work day. We are, you know, like we needed wood cut. So we call a work day, the guys go out
Water
and
paper on my roof, Bill's girlfriend's horse pasture, got dirt on John and Jules' roof. I'm missing one. There's been a few work days.
yeah, we've called work days where we coordinate and then everybody in the group that possibly can goes out there and helps. When we went to John and Jules' house, Trish can't lift anything. She just had a car wreck on Father's Day and had a broken back. But Trish was there and she made sandwiches for everybody. She said, hey, you know, I can't help you guys out, but I brought sandwich stuff and I'm making sandwiches for everybody, which was great because it didn't have to take our time away from making something to eat. And we all worked on it and got it done in one afternoon. That is it's an immense help if you think about it. I hate for Jack to go out PM73 by himself cutting wood. If there's 5 or 6 other guys with him, I know if something does happen, at least somebody else is out there. And it does create, when you work together, it does create a family feeling. I mean, there is nothing we wouldn't do for each other, you know, even on a short-term notice. We hold meetings, we yeah.
And talk.
We eat a lot together. If there is something we want to discuss, we just call up, you know, potluck, come over, we have something to talk about. We watched the movie Thrive last Saturday. It's a really, really good movie for everybody to watch. So we do things together where we educate ourselves. There is a lot of information out there that just by joining one group with another group and visit like we do tonight, you know, I plan on going around to more neighbors. Galen's going to hook me up with it to where we go see what they got going on. The other thing you want to know is, if it is within a day's walking distance, you may want to consider that. You know, you may not.
Economy, like our, you know, like we have in our statement here, you know, it's powered by local jobs, producing local foods. These heritage skills, these all kind of come into play. So not only do you, you know, in the perfect time when it's not an ice storm or it's, you know, not a bad world out there, you get a good economy with local jobs, and it's just much better products. Like at the Clark Bakery, the bread is, you know, 30 times better than going to the grocery store. But you also get like the stability and the knowledge that, you know, when there's a situation you have to deal with, you can deal with it yourselves, and it's everybody's cool, and you know, it's just, I just think that's really, it's a great trade-off, you know, that you get there. So
Yeah.
good in the good, and it's good in the bad, really.
Well, the thing is, when we know that the WellFed neighbor groups all have the same goal in mind. And it's not for selfish reasons, but when we think about it, if we take care of our neighbor, we won't have to worry about them turning against us. But also we know that we have done something to make this world a better place. And if everybody starts off right there, you know, with their neighbors, it's gonna be a chain reaction, and it's gonna spread. But we need to hook up with these other groups that we got going around us, you know, to reinforce what we're doing, what they're doing, and there's so much to be learned. There's so much talent in these groups that we need to share, you know, and the way of the government is to suppress all this.
Joanna and I were speaking the other night about this meeting, and one thing that kind of realized on Joanna and I, she was raised just after the Great Depression. As you can tell by Uda's accent, she is not American. I was raised in Canada and schooled in Vienna. America was one of the first to turn against community. The core of what we're doing is really reestablishing community, interdependence. Some people think, okay, that means I'm going to draw this line on the map. You cannot create a line on a map that's a barrier for a community. Joanna was talking, she considers Kissy Mills part of her community, us part of her community, all the way like-minded people willing to break a sweat, do what's right, and live in a valuable fashion, and really wanting to know their neighbors is I think the core here. It's always a blessing when Galen comes. Every now and then he brings a friend. And it's amazing. Joanna was talking, I think he said last week, to a friend back home in Kentucky that the same thing's happening there. I'm hearing about this up in Minnesota. People want to go back. And I think the only thing that's kept us as a group going through our trials is the fact that we have a sense of community. And that's it. I mean, these are my friends and family. There's local citizens in my town, and then there's my community. And I'll do backwards from my community anytime I can. If you keep that mindset, that I don't care if they're 30 miles away from my neighbor.
Yeah, we're trying, yeah, I think we're trying to, yeah, we definitely want to keep the contact and all be a community, and you know, be a state even more so. I think, you know, just the state of Missouri or the state of Arkansas, you know, within our country, you know, just it's just we can have a win-win deal, you know, we can have, I mean, in Branson here, you know, one of our motivations was, you know, it's 2011 right now, and, you know, it's December. There's a lot of people out here that don't have jobs. I mean, it's kind of always been this way here with the kind of town it is, but you know, we just there's no reason for us to continue to live this way. I mean, we can be prepared for whatever comes in the future, but we can have a local economy where we all have jobs. And it's a smart deal. You know, it's not a crazy thing, and I'm just glad to see that there's other groups like you, and especially in Theodosia. You guys are smaller. How many people are in Ozark County?
I don't know, Dale. Yeah, counter.
That'd be probably 9,000 something.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole county. They got one blinking red light, not even a stoplight in the whole county, so that's one of the advantages for coming, and no building code.
So there.
No Walmart or no McDonald's either.
Yeah, we got to Douglas County, but there's Walmart, McDonald's, but that was something else less.
Now, I want to throw something else out at you, but I also have a pretty extensive collection of herbs. My grandmother was what people would call a witch. I call her a wise woman. I have a lot of her recipes. I dabble in things myself. But my honey had bought me what's called a radionics machine. I don't know if anybody is familiar with radionics. It's a machine that can manipulate frequencies. Everything in the universe is made out of frequencies. Your body is made out of frequencies, but all the organs have the same frequency. If your frequency is off, that causes you to get sick. With radionics, the government has the same machines. They treat the astronauts in space with it. They have a biological sample. It's either a blood sample or a hair sample or saliva. Wherever that particular person is and the sample, they're always connected. So if you treat the sample, you treat the person. It's illegal in the state of Missouri to use the machine for anything else but agricultural purposes. I can do soil analysis with it. I can add minerals and whatever I need to the soil. I can take a cotton swab and swab my dog's mouth and treat him for fleas without ever putting anything on it. Same thing goes for humans. What I want to throw out to you is, I'm not trying to treat you. I do all my friends anyhow, but I don't want to get caught practicing medicine without a license. My machine got stolen Father's Day, and a shaman in Springfield had one, and he loaned me his, and so Jack went under that and he just bought me another one, which I should have for Christmas. But with this machine, I can download in a little vial, about that tall, any of the medicines that you need to have to save your life. If you're on life-saving medicine, you can give me a list of your life-saving medicine, and I can download the frequencies of your life-saving medicine in that little vial of water. And all you do is you take that vial and you stick it in a quart jar and put regular water in it. And the frequency will transfer from that vial into your quart jar, but never lose its potency in that vial. You gotta let it sit for 24 hours, but you will have all your life-saving medicine that you are on. And if shit comes down and there's nothing out there, you will never be without your medicine. So because that's the first thing that's going to go. People that are on life-saving medicine will not have their medicine. And you know, it's hard for me to think about how many people will die just because of that.
Well, I think it's it's a valid point. I mean, really when you think about it, even like you said, in the ice storm alone, I mean, there's, if you're diabetic, I mean, that's a very valid point. I mean, these are just, like I said, it's not, you said before, you're not here to like scare people. There's 1,000 things that could happen, but it's just common sense to have, it's real American just to, have these systems.
The shaman that we go to in Springfield, he's a close friend of Jack's. Jack and him been friends for a long time. He used to work for the government and create chemical warfare. And my sister-in-law died on the swine flu a couple of years ago. So I was pretty bent out of shape over it. And he said, well, that's all thanks to our government. And he told me, he said, AIDS, West Nile virus, swine flu, all this is government-created chemical warfare. And they turn it loose about once a year. Yeah, I will in a minute. And they turn it loose about once a year to see how people react to it, okay? So we're in Springfield, and Tracy told me, he said, Udi, he said, I hate to ask you this, but he said, I have a lady that has Morgellons disease, and I want you to see if there's anything you can do for her. And I said, Morgellons disease? I never heard of that. Well, these frequencies that are established in my books is from 60, 70. Some of these newer things they don't have in there, but there's ways to find out what the frequencies are because you can search. So I said, I'll ask her and I'll see what I can do with her. And I talked to the lady, and that lady, I could barely understand her on the telephone. She had no strength to speak, and she said, well, I guess I'm just going to die. And I said, well, I said, just send me a hair sample. I didn't want to tell her I was working on it with the machine. I said, I'll do energy work, and I said, I'll apply it to a crystal, and I'll send you the crystal, which I downloaded the frequency on the crystal and then sent it to her. So next morning I got, she done went the same day and sent the hair sample. Next day I got the hair sample and I put it in the machine. And in the meantime, I stayed up all night, Jack stayed up all night, Trish stayed up, we had 3 computers going and we were researching what Morgellons disease is. By the time we got done, we were so disgusted with the government. And come to find out, we're all exposed to it. When you look at your, I think it's a $50 bill, there's a copper stripe in it, and a blue stripe and a red stripe. And in those blue and red stripes is a crystal structure. That is a self-replicating crystal structure. It gets kept alive, dormant, by the copper stripe. And it goes on humans, animals, and plants. But it only affects you if you have a genetic defect. If your DNA is off somehow, if you have a broken chromosome, 1 too many or 1 missing. And it's a very nasty death. It can take up to 25 years before you die. You grow fibers out of your skin, and you grow fibers inside. And they get longer and longer, and they constrict your organs. And finally, it just stops everything. And I was really scared because I didn't want the lady, get her hopes up or something. I said, I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to try. So we tried to find numbers, and it always came back to copper poisoning. And then we got smart because with the radionics, you don't cure the cause, you cure the cause behind the cause. So we were working on this copper poisoning, and we found out that she was off on some of the metals that the body needs. So we straightened everything out, and we repaired the DNA, and we were working on it for a whole week, every day. But 3 days into it, I sent her the crystal that I downloaded with healing frequencies. And so
you also gave her intentions.
Yes, and we gave her the intentions because you can change your DNA just by the word that you speak. That's for another night. But anyhow, about a week and a half later, she called me and she said, I don't know what you did, but it's working. She said, I have much more energy. I can walk without my walker from my bedroom to the living room. And I said, okay, it's good. I keep working on it. And we had a bonfire. We always have full moon bonfires. She calls and she says, can I come to the bonfire? And I said, yeah, sure, because we were talking at that point about every other day. I want to show you something. So she drove all the way from Springfield to Theodosia to the bonfire. And she said, look. And I said, what? I've never met the woman before, okay? She said, look. And I said, what am I looking at? She says, I'm walking without a walker. And I said, oh, I wasn't aware you had a walker. Oh yeah, she said, I hadn't been walking without a walker. She said, but I'm going to tell you what I did a couple of days ago. I said, what? She said, I went on a bike ride. So here the woman had gotten well enough that she could ride her bike by nothing else but just using the frequencies on the machine.
I very seldom talk at these meetings, and I very seldom tell stuff. And I know there are many in our group that do not want to hear these things. And I'm certainly not against our country, nor am I against anything in our country. But being old, one of my dearest friends was a person who got his PhD at the University of Indiana, and I used to laughingly say that Richard developed the Hong Kong flu. The last time I saw him, he's dead now, he said to me, and we were in Florida, and he had to report to he had to go to Washington every month of his life and report to a group of people. And last time I saw him alive, he took me by the shoulders and he said, "Quit kidding me. Do not say what I have done. I'm ashamed of it. You're right. But if anybody comes at you, they would shoot you first because you know." And this has actually happened. I know people don't want to hear this. You're talking about healing, and I healed from cancer, and people do not want to hear how I have healed from cancer. But I have healed from cancer through diet. I try to not go to the grocery store because one of the places that we get poisoned is when we check out at the grocery store. There are many things that are happening in our environment that are very subtle, that are destroying us. And I know people don't want to hear it. And we have agreed in this group that we will not go into anything political. This is not political. You have been given life. You have a right to life. It is your own life. And the person who agreed with me the most when I decided not to take medicine with my extreme, according to some people, way of curing my cancer was my own doctor, who would stand with his back against the door at the Cox Hospital and talk to me. And he would say to me, "Mrs. Burdorf, I'm with you all the way. I can do more good in my position and I have to follow the rules. But I agree with you." The last time I went to his office up at Cox Hospital, there was no one there in the office. I said, "What'd you guys do? Did you kill everybody? Did you make them well?" And they came out the door and they said, "No, we cleared the deck. We wanted to hear about your hocus pocus." And I told them my hocus pocus. I'm considered an extremist and an oddball here, and I have never told that to a group. But I cured myself by throwing my pea bag over my shoulder and going out in the yard and cutting my herbs, putting them in the blender with the best I could get for lactose bacillus acidophilus was buttermilk. Dick would bring me across the street. Now remember, I'm here alone by myself in a strange place and I don't know anybody. Now I know Ed and now I know Juanita. I would crawl, because I could only crawl here by myself. And I did that for 3 months. I got up, I got out of bed, and I did have a little lady from El Salvador who would come and she would put the onions on my belly and help my belly heal. And that is the truth. And medicine, we have a whole lot to learn from you guys.
The thing is, my friend Nancy had cancer, and I didn't want to tackle it by myself. So my teacher in Florida got on it, and I transferred her frequencies to Florida, and he worked on her every day. Nancy went up here in Branson to the cancer center, and they stopped giving her the last chemo because they said she's going to die if they give her the last chemo. And we couldn't figure out what was the problem with her, but they gave her chemo and they gave her blood and they gave her irradiated blood, which caused to kill everything, and it also, once it got in her body, killed whatever was in her body who would help reproduce blood. You know, they have a protocol that they have to go by. And if you try to do anything against them, you better not tell them. I mean, you got lucky that you had a doctor that backed you up, because when she told them she wasn't going to take the blood, they told her, they said, "Well, you're just going to have to die." She said, "Well, you guys are going to try to kill me anyhow." And the doctor turned around and said, "Well, you gave us permission. You signed the paper." So we worked on her. She wound up being diabetic for a while, and she has MS. And the weirdest part was, whatever was in the chemo actually helped her with the MS. But it set everything else up. But we got her straightened out, and she's free of cancer. She's not a diabetic anymore. And we didn't do anything specifically, you know, with medicines. We just worked with the frequencies.
We are vibration, and we have vibrational medicine now. And vibrational medicine is something that's new, and the human race, and particularly people who live in the United States of America, will not accept change or advancement. And everything is frequency. Everything you see in here is frequency. We are frequency. And whether we like it or not, we are frequency.
This is very common though in Europe. And the higher up people go to Europe and get treated in Europe because they don't want to do it over here. But it is something that's been around for a long time, and it really does work. And we figured if we're gonna establish ourselves to where we can help ourselves heal and stay healthy on top of everything, you know, because we can choose to have a healthy diet now. We can buy organic produce and all this, but when everything stops and we have to rely on what we produce ourselves, we may not be able to get everything we need to get the right nutrition. We get better than what we get in the store, you know, when you buy just regular things off the shelf. But if somebody has any specific needs, you might not able to meet those. So that's why we decided we were going to go ahead and make sure that we download everybody's frequency, and almost everybody in our group, I got their frequencies, and I'm open to it if you guys want to do it. I come back another time and I bring vials. And
You know, the Ozarks, one of the most prevalent trees is the eastern red cedar, and Jewel and I, my wife, we lived at East Wing Community, which is like 22, which is by Tecumseh, near, before Norfolk Lake. Anyway, I had an idea. I read a book about how to build a sauna out of cordwood, cedar. And so I asked the community if we could cut some cedar to make it, and they said, yeah, go ahead. Well, end up the community got low on money, and they couldn't afford to build it, so we got 10 face cords of red cedar that had been cut down and debarked and cut to 12-inch lengths. And then, so last year we started making, we have two 600 square foot foundations with stem walls. So last year we started building the first part. So we have an oval shaped 600 square foot cordwood house with a green roof.
Literally green.
It's a shade of green because we did use some, like we have styrofoam, and things like that, but has anybody heard of a cordwood home? I don't know what it's about.
It's called cordwood masonry or stack wall. It goes under both names depending on which region in Canada we refer to it as stack wall. But most of the southern regions call it cordwood masonry.
So basically, once we used concrete to build the stem wall, which is 18 inches high and 18 inches wide, and then you build the wood on the cordwood on that. You lay down like 4 inches of a mortar, and the mortar is 9 parts sand, 3 parts what they call hydrated lime, 2 parts Portland cement, and then 3 parts wet sawdust. And you put the wet sawdust in there so that the mortar dries slower and doesn't crack. And basically, you lay like these blocks of wood. One end of the block is the inside of the wall, and one end is the outside. So it's like that.
You're it's like looking at the sideways view of a stacked firewood with mortar beams.
So it's 12 inch, so you lay 4 inches of mortar, and then you have a dried sawdust with lime in it as the insulation, and then 4 inches of mortar, and then you build your wall that way. And then on the top we have a green roof, and like mentioned before, we had a work group came out and helped us put the dirt on there. And then in mid-October we planted it with the wheat that's from
Woodpeckers from the
woodpeckers and clover, and now it's coming up and it looks like a grass right now, because we did the grass. And for heating, we got a wood cook stove that was built by the Amish to heat and cook. And Buell built a nice stone wall around it, kind of. So, and then we plan to have a boiler hooked to the wood cook stove that will heat our water.
Why did you choose round building as opposed to...
Oval? Well, a curved wall is stronger than a straight wall. And I think it's more spiritual to have a round, kind of curves. Anyway, so we have one that's almost done, and then about 12 feet away we've got a foundation of the stem wall for another one, and then we'll connect them with a breezeway, and plan on using, if people know what cob is, yeah, so the middle part will be cob, but we're going to put a tin roof on it so we can have rainwater collection. So I guess we'll try to prepare for the future.
Sounds like you're truly living off the grid.
Well, we want to live off the grid. Right now, we have electricity.
Oh, okay, you do have some electricity right now.
Yeah.
But other than that, they're pretty well self-sufficient.
Oh, yeah.
They're very,
Yeah.
it's a place to see. It really is
I
a
would
place
love
to
to
see.
see it. Yes.
Well, anybody's welcome to come down. We're like 6 miles east of Theodosia. And
Very close to me. If I
right.
could throw a rock over the ridge, I could hit her. Just gotta get to the top of the ridge. They live on the bottom of one side and I'm on the bottom of the other.
But we have 17 acres. Jewel, do you want to say anything?
Well, we are gonna get solar.
Yeah, we are going to get solar.
Oh, yeah.
Breeze all winter.
And then we'll get that lead off.
I developed and printed a construction manual for building a walk-in cold frame in any increment of 3-foot lengths, 13 feet wide. The ones that I built on the farm were 45 feet long. For the last 10 years, up till this year, I've been able to take and allow Oriental greens, which will take cold temperatures, to grow all the way up to fruition, let them go to seed, and then about a month later go in with a weed whacker and knock all those plants down and pull that material into the center. I grow 2 raised beds, 5 feet wide, and there's a 3-foot path in the middle. And then I also use weed barrier to make it easier to take care of the crops in the wintertime, and I use drip irrigation. It is so wonderful to be able to walk out and harvest yourself a meal of greens all winter. It's something you really should consider trying to get set up for next winter. The instruction booklet which I have is $10. It's the best $10 you'll ever spend in your life. If you want to follow that plan, I recommend giving that book to a 14-year-old and stepping back. Don't try to improve on it until you've built one. I've been doing it for 10 years. Take care of my experience for $10. The greens that I grow are things like pak choy, bok choy, all of the mustards. There's a great variety of mustards. Spinach is a crop.
I have spinach in my garden now.
I'm sorry?
I have spinach in my garden now that grows all winter.
Spinach is an
Touch the ground.
interesting plant because if you have a mature plant in the spring where the temperatures go up and down, the plant will be growing stronger in the spring, and then you'll get a cold snap. When you get a cold snap, that particular plant knows how to change its carbohydrates to sugar as a natural antifreeze. And when it starts growing after that, it is the sweetest sugar-filled spinach you've ever had in your life. I'll not go too much further into this. You can build, as I say, this particular structure plans call for 3-foot increments, 13 feet wide. And if you ever try it once, you'll be lost without it. I created a product which I call salad by the inch, which is a lazy man's way of eating a lot of different greens simply. I take and combine 6 or 7 different greens, wash it, and roll it up in saran wrap so it's in a round. And then when you slice off, you get a little of each of the greens that are in it. Not only does it make it easier to get a salad, but because you've got it surrounded in saran wrap, it holds the moisture in and extends the shelf life.
Yeah, we ship it from here to Florida, and the guy still holds it for 2 weeks. I mean, it's...
When you start to do your gardens in the spring, do yourself a favor and do soil tests so that you know what is necessary. It's so many people have asked, I've been doing this for 35 years. And the question I get more often than anything else is, what should I put in my garden? Well, you gotta know what's there first. Once you know what's there, there are some things that are good in any garden. One is dried seaweed, kelp. All of the nutrients that are water soluble go from your garden down into the stream, down into the river, and down into the ocean. Those nutrients arrive there, and the seaweed eats them up. So you recycle all that back into your garden. And it makes a marvelous difference. You can take and foliar feed your plants. I don't know if anybody's doing that. But plants get a lot of their nutrition out of the air and through their leaves rather than just their roots. And if you'll make a mixture of 3 parts fish and 1 part seaweed, and I remember that because that comes before S.
Not fish literally, but fish emulsion.
Yeah.
If you add those liquid ingredients together and put 1 ounce of that to a gallon of water, you will be amazed. In fact, you shouldn't spray that more than about once every 3 weeks.
Good. It's good for your houseplants too.
When I first got started, I had some cucumber plants, and I decided I was going to see what would happen if I sprayed them once a day. And I sprayed them once a day, and you could watch those suckers grow. We went on vacation for 2 weeks, and I came back, and my welfare plants were dead. That had just refused. They didn't need to get anything out of the soil. They just were living and having a ball. But if you do that, you got to continue it. Unless anybody's got any questions, I'm done.
Now, where do you get that kelp?
Well, I used to be able to get it from Hummer's.
Yeah, used to.
Hummer's is no longer in business in Springfield. I've gotten the dried seaweed on the internet through eBay.
I know that Orishlands West Plains carries it, so that means that other Orishlands would probably be able to. It runs approximately $1 per pound, and it comes in 50-pound bags.
I'm sure that there are other places in
Springfield?
Out of West Kearney. It's about a mile past Race Brothers going west.
Okay. There are other people that have that type of material.
But he puts the same kelp that he uses for his plants in the capsules to eat the pills.